What's going on, everybody? Victor here with another brand new video. Let's talk about another fight that's taking place in the bantamweight division at UFC 300. Calvin Kattar versus the former bantamweight champion of the world, Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling boasting a 23-4 record, and Calvin Kattar boasting a 23-7 record. Both these guys have the same amount of wins in their respective careers, and it's going to be an interesting fight because you got a striker versus a grappler. Striker being Calvin Kattar. He's got some of the nicest hands in the featherweight division versus Aljamain Sterling, who is making his featherweight debut. And I'm sorry, I did say bantamweight, but this is going to be taking place in the featherweight division. Aljamain Sterling makes his debut in the featherweight division of the UFC for the very first time after conquering the bantamweight division, moving up a weight class after losing his belt to Sugar Sean O'Malley. This is going to be an interesting matchup because even though Aljamain Sterling is going up in weight, he was a big bantamweight. He's going to fill in great as a featherweight, so his body is going to mold in pretty nicely into the weight class, and Calvin Kattar is going to have to really solve the puzzle of Aljamain Sterling because he is pretty orthodox when it comes to his striking, and both these guys are going to be fighting out of an orthodox stance. Calvin Kattar is going to have a 4-inch height advantage, so if I'm Calvin Kattar, I want to try to use that to my advantage. You're going to want to use the body kicks and try to blast some head kicks as well. If I'm Calvin Kattar, I want to blast some of the calf kicks as well, take away that mobility of Aljamain Sterling. That's going to do the majority of his work with the takedowns, with the grappling. He's going to try to take down Calvin Kattar and really try to smother him because Aljamain Sterling does have a great amount of pressure when he does take his opponents to the ground. And Aljamain Sterling does have some good striking as well. But if I'm Calvin Kattar and you know that my opponent's going to try and come in and take me down, I'm going to try to utilize the knee straight up the middle, just like Marlon Moraes. The last time that Aljamain Sterling got knocked out really bad was against Marlon Moraes. He's trying to go in for a takedown. Marlon Moraes ends up kneeing him straight through the middle and sending Aljamain Sterling straight to the hospital. One of the nastiest KOs in mixed martial arts history. You always want to make sure when you're facing a grapplers that you're always utilizing either the underhooks or the overhooks, that you're sprawling, that you're using the wizard, that you're moving to the left, moving to the right, because as soon as a grappler gets you against the cage, or as soon as they have you distracted for at least 1 second, they'll level change, they'll go in for the takedown, whether it's a single leg or a double leg, whether it's an Eminari roll, whether it's a judo throw, pretty much anything. There's so many different ways that you can be able to get your opponent down to the ground, and Aljamain Sterling is no stranger when it comes to that. He took down multiple guys in the bantamweight division, some of the best fighters in the world. Talking about the Peter Yans, TJ Dillashaw. He's able to take down Henry Cejudo, an Olympic gold medalist for the United States of America. He was able to take down him multiple times in that fight. So if he was able to take down those caliber of opponents, then he should be able to take down Calvin Kattar. And if he does take down Calvin Kattar, he's going to have to do his absolute best to make sure that Calvin Kattar does not get back to his feet, because Calvin Kattar does do really well with the boxing. He's got some really nice combinations. He does set his opponents up nicely for some power shots right down the middle to be able to take his opponents down. I remember when Calvin Kattar fought Shane Burgos, it was a great striking affair. Both these guys didn't want to go to the ground whatsoever, and he ended up knocking out Shane Burgos. I believe it was in the 3rd round, fight of the year candidate. He's also gone up against other opponents as well and has taken a lot of damage as well. He took a lot of damage against Max Holloway, and Max Holloway broke the significant strikes record in a single fight. So if I'm Aljamain Sterling, I'm putting the pressure on him, not just with the grappling, but with the strikes. If there's one thing that Calvin Kattar is very uncomfortable with, it's with the volume of strikes, and Max Holloway was able to exploit that over a 5-round period. So if I'm Aljamain Sterling, I'm going into this fight, I'm feigning with the takedowns, and as soon as Calvin Kattar bites, because he is going to bite with those feints, a lot of strikers feint with the strikes, a lot of grapplers feint with the takedowns, and a lot of their opponents usually tend to bite extremely hard. I'm blasting him with some combinations. I'm throwing the volume. I'm throwing the jab out there whenever I can. I'm also following the jab up with the cross, and I'm working some hooks down there to the body when I have my opponent up against the cage. I'm working the body. I'm ripping the body. I'm really trying to take the air right out of him. And as soon as they try to find a way out, that's when I'm going to go into level change. That's when I'm going into the takedown, using their back against the cage as leverage. I'm elevating them up, and I'm bringing them back down. And Aljamain Sterling does really great when he does take down his opponents, that he gets right on the back and really does have his opponents in a lot of trouble as well. And Aljamain Sterling doesn't have that many submissions in his career, but his best submission in his career was against Corey Sandhagen very early on in the first round. If he can be able to do that with Corey Sandhagen, who's considered to be one of the best strikers out there, and we all know Corey Sandhagen, and he does great with the striking. He can do that with another striker in the caliber of Calvin Kattar. And if he does that, he should be able to do that in the very early in the round as well. But you have to dictate the pace of the fight. Whoever dictates their pace in this fight is going to be the victor of this fight. And if I'm Calvin Kattar, you're going to go in. You're going to basically get as close to Aljamain Sterling as possible. The closer that you are to a grappler, the harder it is for them to be able to level change, go in for a nice, comfortable takedown. The farther that you are, that you're given a little bit more distance, then, if you're in their range, like Khabib, I remember when he fought Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje was keeping the distance away from him. He was blasting with leg kicks. He was doing a good job with that until he got taken down. If Calvin Kattar is smart enough going into this fight, he keeps his distance, or he's closing his distance as much as possible, making it uncomfortable for Aljamain Sterling to be able to go in for a takedown and blasting those leg kicks as well. He should have a lot of success defending against the takedown. And Calvin Kattar is no stranger when it comes to fighting guys that are wrestlers. He did fight Josh Emmett, and he did fight into a very close fight as well, even though that fight took place the majority on the feet. Calvin Kattar's going to have to come in here, and like I said, he's going off a couple of a 2 or 3 fight losing straight, lost to Josh Emmett. He also sustained an injury against Arnold Allen, so he's going into this fight with a lot of motivation. He's going into this fight with a little bit of pressure from the organization. If he loses this fight, there's a possibility that he might get cut, depending on what happens, but since he is a very exciting fighter, he might not get scratched from the organization if he does lose this fight. Then you've got the other side of Aljamain Sterling. He's making his UFC debut in the featherweight division, making his divisional debut, in the featherweight division, and he really wants to become a 2-division weight champion. He really wants to go up there and really beat up on some of those guys in the top 5 of the division, so he's going to have to do his absolute best fighting against Calvin Kattar. And like I said, whoever dictates the pace of this fight will win. Whoever uses more of their octagon control will be able to win this fight. You want to be able to walk your opponent down the majority of the time. If you're fighting the majority of the fight moving backwards, you're not going to win. It's extremely hard to move the fight and move backwards, and extremely hard to be able to counterpunch your opponent as well. Another chance that Aljamain Sterling has is being able to counterpunch Calvin Kattar. If he does come in there with a combination, if he does try to rip to the body or rip to the head, he does have a chance to be able to counter, but Aljamain might just end up raising his guard a little bit, protecting himself instead of just counter punching, because if he tries going for a counter punch, he's going to leave his guard a little bit open for another punch to go through. So it is going to be a very good fight indeed. The upper hand for me is going to go to Aljamain Sterling. He's not going to have to cut as much weight, because he did cut a lot of weight in the bantamweight division. He's not going to have to cut as much in the featherweight division, going up against Calvin Kattar, who is on a 2-fight losing streak. Calvin Kattar, who is going into this fight a little bit nervous, but a good thing about a nervous fighter is that they're a dangerous fighter at the end of the day. So both these individuals going in there with a lot of motivation, both these individuals going in there with a lot of pressure to be able to perform on this stacked UFC 300 card. If you ask me who's going to win this, I'm going to give it to Aljamain Sterling. I say that Aljamain Sterling is going to win this via the unanimous decision. I don't believe he's going to get the finish, because Calvin Kattar is a very hard individual to finish overall. Like I said, he went face-to-face with Max Holloway for 5 rounds, 600 significant strikes in that fight, and still wasn't finished. So I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling via unanimous decision. I believe he's going to get a couple of takedowns in this fight. He's really going to smother Calvin Kattar, and Calvin Kattar is going to face some of the most pressure on the ground that he hasn't been able to face in the featherweight division in his UFC career. Appreciate you guys for watching this video. It's going to be a good one. Like I said, Calvin Kattar does have a height advantage going into this fight. If I'm him, I'm blasting the leg kicks, and I'm definitely utilizing the knees. Definitely going back, looking at that Marlon Moraes fight that Marlon had against Aljamain Sterling, how he knocked them out. I'm taking a couple pointers from Marlon Moraes, and I'm going to try to do the same thing and utilize those skills against Aljamain Sterling to try to see if it'll work for him as well. But I'm going with Aljo. I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to do it pretty comfortably, but he is going to face some resistance. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Stay safe, stay blessed, and have fun. watching UFC 300 from this Saturday. Let's go, guys. Later.